I'll give you a little background on what I'm doing here. This is a Johnson Evinrude OMC 60 horsepower lower unit, or foot some people call it, or a gear case. There's the shaft, the drive shaft, and the shift linkage shaft. What I'm trying to do, these are notorious for these hubs to get seized up into the gear case itself right here. What I usually do, I've learned over the years, worked for a Johnson Evinrude dealer since, well, from 1999 to 2008, so somewhere around like 9-10 years. And the old man that worked on those boats, me and him became pretty good friends. His name was James Jones. He's no longer with us, and he will be missed greatly. But let me show you what I do. I get my threaded rod. It's 15 inches long. You don't have to go quite that long, but on the bearing carrier itself right here is threaded, and these bolts actually stripped out the regular 5/16 bolt that screws down in there. I drilled this out to 3/8 and tapped it for a 3/8/16 all thread. Now what I'm going to do, we're going to use a harmonic balancer puller. In case you're wondering, the part number on this one is actually Snap-on CJ99 is the number on it. So let's go ahead and give it a whirl here, see if we can get it to pop loose. These things can be stubborn to get out. It's coming. I'm actually probably going to end up replacing this bearing housing due to it's so very corroded. She's coming. I really want, well, at the beginning of this video, kind of wanted to say what was going on with this thing. We were going out across Martin Creek Lake, and just all of a sudden made a noise, kind of like a click. Everything still ran fine, the engine was running fine. My father-in-law said, man, that don't sound right, and I totally agreed with him. So we didn't shower down on it anymore. We kind of just limped it back to the bank, and we pulled the oil drain plug, and metal filings came out. So we know we got a problem in here. And let's see what it looks like down in there. Not too bad, really. Let me take this off the camera here, or the tripod. There's two snap rings down here that you'll have to take out, but as you can tell now, that bearing assembly is ready to come out, but I got to get the snap rings out. The forward gear, if you can see that, has two teeth knocked out of it. I've seen this a whole bunch in the past. Usually what happens, you hit some kind of obstruction in the water, stump or anything, and it weakens those teeth. These teeth, or these gears, are extremely hard, and what happens is they'll crack, and then as time goes on, at any given second, any given moment, the teeth will just break off. If it's like, usually the teeth break off whenever you're under a heavy load. So like if you're cruising along and you mash on it pretty hard, that's when it does it. And that's what this one done, and we caught it before it completely shelled out. I've checked all the bearings. All the bearings are good. The prop shaft is not bent. There's the drive shaft tube or cavity. There's the shift cavity. Here is the drive shaft. There's a wafer bearing on that end of it that's still good. Shift block with thrust bearings. All the bearings are good. And so basically what I'm going to do, since this is an 89 model, I'm going to probably try to find some parts on eBay. You can scream at me if you want to, but maybe some used parts, some good used parts, and we'll put this puppy back together probably for less than $100, I hope. If you put all new gears in it, if you put a forward gear and a reverse gear, clutch dog, new clutch dog spring, and a seal kit, will probably cost you around $400. I got it all put back together. Got the new bearing carrier in. Actually, the bearing carrier came with new bearings and new seals, so I didn't have to monkey with pressing in new seals that came from the factory. I actually found this is a brand spanking new OEM part, and I found it on eBay for less than half the price of a new one. The guy was wanting to get rid of it, so he sold it to me pretty cheap. I've got the oil fill plug in there on my pressure gauge. I've got it pumped up to 10 psi, and she is holding steady. New shift rod O-ring, new shift rod gasket, bearing carrier. These seals have been replaced. It's going to be good to go. We'll get the shift rod length set with my special OMC tool here, and basically that's just going to go like that, and you screw the rod in and out to line up with a number 10 screw. As you can tell, here's the engine here. It's a 3-cylinder 60 horsepower Johnson. It's on a 24-foot Sun Tracker pontoon boat. And I'm going to show you a couple things you want to watch out for before you stab the foot up in there, and also how to adjust the shift linkage before you put the foot up in there. Basically what you want to watch out for, this is looking at the foot or the engine from the bottom side. And you have a grommet right here that will deteriorate over time. Also your water tube. See how it's loose? You're gonna have to, before you stab it up in there, your water pump, this is made out of like copper or stainless steel at its sharp. The water pump on the foot itself is made out of plastic, and you can actually damage that water pump when you stick it up in there. So when you go to start putting this foot up in here, you want to get it lined up with the water pump before you stab it up in there. You can go in through the side with like a coat hanger or something, screwdriver, to help line this up forward and backwards. That's one of the biggest mistakes that most boat mechanics make, is not getting that water tube stabbed properly. See how it can go over to the side and it'll completely miss the water pump. So get that part of it going, and it'll be good to go. The way that you want to set your shift rod length is with this special tool that I've made. I've seen mechanics use a wooden yardstick, but I like to make mine out of aluminum just because it's a little bit more rigid. From this tip to this number 10 screw is 21 inches and 23/32 long. Plus or minus 1/32. What you do is you put it in the hole where the shift rod is, and you let this thing swing down. And you want this rod to be flush with the surface of the lower unit. As you can tell, it's not. So what you do to adjust this is you can turn this in and out. It's threaded down there in the shift block. test it again. Okay, now it's not touching the foot, so I'm gonna go the opposite direction, one turn. That's almost perfect right there. Now, I'm going to show you what happens whenever you go one turn too much. See, it won't, you can't do anything because it hits the foot. So, that's why this adjustment is so important. So we're going to rotate it around one more time to the left to loosen, to make it go out. And then your tool, you just want it to rest on there. Rest on the surface of the foot and just ease into the hole. That's how you adjust it. Your owner's manual, or the service manual, excuse me, will show you the length that's supposed to be on your particular engine. Sometimes you might need a little bit of help, just moral support more than anything. Now this has got a crook on the end, so you're going to have to kind of feed it up in there at an angle like that. There we go. Careful not to bend the rod or anything. Line up your water tube. This one's going to be pretty easy. And just kind of get everything situated. What you're going to have to, well, look at there, it did it. I thought I was going to have to spin the flywheel up there to get that shift, not the shift rod, but the drive shaft lined up. But in the real world, this usually doesn't happen. So go ahead and install you a bolt right there. That will stay, so I can get a bolt in it. Go ahead and then evenly tighten down all your foot bolts. Lower unit attaching bolts. Right here is your shift linkage, and that's where the shift rod hooks to, and you see the little pin right there. It goes through that shift rod hole, and I'll move it on the other side so you can see it here. You see that moving there? I'm gonna go shift the controls on the dashboard. Hold on just a second, I'll show you. So basically, that is the bell crank for the shifter, and I'll show you here in just a second how it hooks up on the other side. Here's your shift rod. It goes, makes a 90 right here and goes all the way to the other side of the block where I showed you where that bell crank was. Basically your cable's hooked to it right here. Your cable's here, runs this way all the way up to the front of the boat, and it just moves back and forth to give it forward and reverse and neutral. Pretty much ready to go back together with it. Going to put the cowling back on it and put the lower guard back on it, and we'll get this thing fired up and see how it does. And I'm going to see when my father-in-law gets home from work today, see if we can't go make a lake run with it, test it out for real. Y'all have a good day.